Previously in the Big God story, we learned about Saul, the first king of Israel. He wasn't the king that God had in mind for his people, but he was definitely the king the people had in mind for themselves. They looked around at the countries around them and said they wanted a king like that. A big, tall, strong king who was a fighter. But God warned them that that doesn't make a good king. But he let them have their choice anyway. And just like God said, things didn't go great for King Saul. He didn't lead the people toward God. He led them all over the place. When God would say stop, King Saul would go. And when God would say go, King Saul would stop. Eventually God had had enough of King Saul and called on Samuel to go and select the next king for his people. God's choice. Go to the city of Bethlehem, he told Samuel. There you'll find a man named Jesse with many sons. I will show you which of his sons is to be the next king. So Samuel obeyed. In Bethlehem, Samuel met Jesse, who brought his sons before him. Samuel was sure he knew which of Jesse's sons would be the next king. Jesse's eldest son was a big and strong man, but God reminded Samuel of a very important thing. I don't care about what's on the outside. I care about the inside of a person. And so each of Jesse's sons were rejected. They would not be the next king of Israel. Are you sure this is all of your sons? Samuel asked Jesse. I've been given some very clear instructions from God about this. My youngest is, just looking after the sheep, said Jesse. So they went to go see Jesse's youngest. Jesse called for his youngest son David to come to him. And as soon as Samuel saw him, he knew this was the next king. God didn't choose David to be the next king because he was big or strong or fast or especially good at looking after sheep. God didn't choose him for any reason that people could see. Because God looked at his heart, and his heart was right. Later, God would say that David's heart was like his own. It didn't make David perfect. He was not a perfect person, but it did make him God's perfect choice to be his king. David became a good king. Not the king that the people wanted, but the king that God knew they needed. We have lots of ideas about stuff that we want and stuff that we would like, but only God truly gives us what we need.